17 years ago, during the Freedom Celebration, I was sitting right here in this same spot. And right at that end of service, something happened that changed my life forever. And Pastor Hess began to tell a story about a Hispanic couple in Bixby. I realized that this person, this couple he was talking about, I knew them. I was part of that story.
I was raised in Bixby, Oklahoma at the age of 6.5 years old when my mom brought us over to Bixby. Around 10th grade is when I met Mr. Lonnie Vaughn. Me and Lonnie Vaughn got to be real good friends. We got to be the best friends ever. I opened me up a company. I was not making enough money, and as I kept working around the fields, finally, me and Lonnie started talking a little bit, and a question that popped up and said, hey, do you know how to get marijuana here from Mexico? And we started with about a half a pound, and first thing you know, it was about almost 10 or 15 tons of marijuana coming to the Bixby area. Lonnie was my salesman.
I'd be sitting there in the morning as a normal family. Kids are eating breakfast, everybody's getting ready the kids to go to school, the adults to go to work, and just a perfect family looking at that door and saying, I wonder if today will be that day that door gets kicked in and my real world catches up with me.
Me and Lonnie, we didn't get to see each other for a little while, and at that moment, Lonnie kind of had a distance from me.
I found myself in a situation, sitting at a table with a bunch of men in suits all around me. I'm under federal indictment, and they're closing in on me. And they told me, today, you're going to make a choice. One of those choices you make, you're going home to be with your family. If you make the other choice, you're going to stay here with us.
Well, Mr. Vaughn was already wired, and he was setting me up for a big fall. I wound up in jail, and I spent there like about almost 7 or 8 months just inside a cell, just thinking over and over and over, you know. I was one of the richest men, and now look at me now, I've already lost everything. And all this was because of Mr. Vaughn. And to be honest with you, Lonnie Vaughn was the target for me. I was supposed to kill Lonnie Vaughn and all his family and put him on the refrigerator and send him down the Arkansas River. That was my heart that I wanted to do, because he turned me in. But something deep inside me keeps saying, go and talk to that pastor. So I went out there and I asked him, I said, you've been preaching here for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and you keep saying that if you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, you would be saved. And so I want to know, what does it take for a person to be saved? He read Romans 10:9, where he said, if you believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord and believe in Him, that you will receive, He'll come into your life. So I repeated that verse, and he gave me a Bible. I went back to my cell. I started reading the Bible. That's when I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. This is like the Spirit of God kept building in my heart, you know, His Word, and I kept going to church every Sunday. I would have Bible studies every day of the week, 7 days a week. We had Bible study. I keep working with that, and it seems to me like I started feeling where God was really starting to transform my life. The Lord had laid into my heart to look for a pastor named Victor Horta, which is one of the oldest pastors here in the Baptist Tulsa area. I spent with Victor about a year. Right after that, I said, Victor, what am I supposed to do? He said, you're going to start a ministry in Bixby. So I was driving around about 11, 12 o'clock at night, and the Lord had laid in my heart to start a ministry around this area here, closer to Southern Hills. And our first ministry started from some apartments on Peoria. We was there for about a couple of months until Pastor Hess found out about us. Hess had called me over to Southern Hills. Right after that, he had the opportunity to announce the congregation about a pastor that he had met, that he was a drug dealer and a drug user. He announced that on a Sunday, and I think it was on Freedom Day.
I began to understand something in my life at that moment, sitting right here in this very spot, that God still loved me, despite myself and despite everything I had done to run from Him, to turn away from him, that he didn't turn away from me, and that he actually had come after me. He said, what I want you to do at the end of the service, I want you to walk down that aisle to the front. And I want you to walk up to that pastor. I didn't even know his name at that time, Pastor Hess. And he said, I want you to ask him, can you call him, or can you set up a meeting with him? Don't say anything to him. Don't mention names. He set up a meeting with me, and I came down there to talk to him. And then I began to tell him my story and said, this guy that you were telling us about, this man, is his name Emilio Castillo? He said, yeah, Lonnie. He said, that's him. I said, well, I have a history with him. I'm part of that story that you told. And he said, I already knew that, Lonnie.
And I had been looking for Mr. Vaughn for a long time, and I found everybody else that I kind of got involved in the drug business, and I asked for forgiveness and for them to forgive me for the stupidity things that I have done. And so, but I could never find Mr. Lonnie Vaughn.
And he said, I knew that was you and that God had brought you to us. And he said, I've already called him. I hope that's okay. I said, yeah, it is. And I said, I want to meet him, if it's possible, if he'll let me meet him, and I want to ask for his forgiveness. He said, well, Emilio told me to tell you he's already forgiven you, and that, yes, he wants to meet with you too.
You know, I could never find Lonnie until God prepared us. He prepared my heart. He prepared Lonnie's heart, because it sure was hard for me to really learn how to forgive, and I had to forgive Lonnie, and he had to forgive me.
Emilio took me and he grabbed me in his arms, and he hugged me. He said, Lonnie, it's okay. And of course, here I'm the crybaby. I'm bawling again. And he just kept reassuring me. I said, but, he said, no, Lonnie, no, I've forgiven you.
And I gave him a hug, and I told him to forgive me for what I have done, because you might not realize sometimes you don't have to be in prison to be in prison.
So I looked at me. I said, well, can I come help you start this other church? And he looked at me and said, yeah.
So right after that, Pastor has opened doors for the Hispanic ministry, and we have been faithful here. We came aboard in 2000. We're right here 2017, praising God, sharing the gospel around the world, even out of our ministry, going out to Mexico, evangelizing.
And literally drive down the same roads, the same paths that we called the drug route. Here I am going down that same road, down those same roads. But look what I'm bringing down there now. I'm not bringing destruction. I'm bringing the life of God.
There is a God that listens to our prayers, and here's a man that's been transformed by God, just like probably some of you people sitting around here right now today.
I never intended to be sitting here telling this story I'm telling. We had spent years and years over that 10-year period of taking this dark past in our family and burying it and not sharing it with anyone, and never intended to do it, to never even talk about it among ourselves. But oh, God had different plans. And that day he brings me to this church, and he takes my whole past and just right here in front of the whole church, he puts it out there. So I come into this church exposed with all that ugliness, all that shame in my life. And I wasn't sure that I would even be welcomed back. In some ways, I kept coming back just to wait and watch. I know that's what they're going to do. It's some assumption on my part. I know they're going to act different now, but they didn't. And it's so awesome to be here, sitting here right now, 17 years later, as we begin to have our freedom celebration, to say that I'm not that weak person anymore. I'm not that broken person anymore. I'm whole today. I'm strong, and I have purpose, and I have value. And I thank this congregation, I thank this church, my family, for what you've been in my life and my family's life.